So this morning I read an article on the new Trans Am, and then this afternoon this one popped up on my screen. Here it is, 12 classic American muscle cars worth every penny. Had to read this one. Let's get into it. Any classic American muscle car is going to be something worth buying. Many of them can even be considered investments with appreciation a foregone conclusion. The astronomical growth of classic cars recently is as astounding as it is concerning. The upward trajectory and the rarest, most valuable cars puts upward pressure on the prices of lesser cars. This makes it harder for someone with significant means to get into classic car ownership. Whether owning a classic car is a good idea, it certainly is not rational, is a discussion for another day. The fact is that people love classic cars for many reasons, and that American muscle cars are among the most popular. The most desirable American muscle cars has always been the exclusive Mustangs, Challengers, etc. However, a 1967 Mustang GT 350 can cost more than $300,000, and a Plymouth Hemi Cuda recently sold for an astonishing $4.8 million. With these prices, few people can buy them. Furthermore, each mile driven can devalue the car, and a wreck would be a devastating loss. Since cars are built to be driven, buying one you can drive every day if you wish is far better. For these reasons, it would be better to buy one without such extreme appreciation, without being a dilapidated pile. For the daily American muscle car driver, these are worth every penny. First car on the list is the AMC SC, or the Rambler. It is hard to get more American than AMC. The company was headquartered in Detroit and built cars in Wisconsin, and it was fond of the red, white, and blue colors that made up its logo. Several special editions were also proudly emblazoned with this color scheme, and this includes the 1969 AMC SC Rambler. This vehicle used the rather ordinary Rambler Econobox, known for being mostly no frills and sensible, stuffed with a big V8 engine and covered in bold American paint colors. Perhaps most significant about this car is how much it was a departure from its foundation. While a Rambler would be a Spartan and, frankly, a slow six-cylinder car, this came with a 390 cubic inch AMC V8 topped off with a 4-barrel carburetor sending power through a 4-speed transmission switched up by a Hurst shifter. To help keep the 315 horsepower car on asphalt, the suspension received heavy-duty shocks, anti-hop rear links, and a sway bar. To complete the package, drivers were treated to an 8,000 RPM, such torque on the steering column, while onlookers were greeted with a large, functional Ram air intake scoop on the hood. With muscle car bona fides such as this, one might expect values to be soaring, especially given that only 1,512 were made in just 1 year. However, one sold recently on Bring a Trailer for $43,000 in what could only be considered like new condition. Considering this is well within the price range of a new Ford Explorer, it should be an easy choice for the money. Next on the list is the Buick Grand National. Buick has a well-earned reputation for building solid and comfortable cars for upscale buyers. They have always been slotted just below other luxury marquees, while offering attractive yet often conservative styling for buyers who value a good ride and excellent comfort. Yet, when the company tinkered with its 3.8-liter V6 by adding a turbocharger to it, long before turbos were commonplace, Buick created something altogether different. With its dark and solid colors and lack of shiny chrome, the Buick Grand National arrived looking something more sinister than your average grandma car, something of a Buick staple. This car was ready to run the streets looking for cocky frat boys in Mustangs and show them who was boss back in the 80s when it came out. The Grand National is powered by a sequential fuel-injected V6 aided by a Garrett turbocharger and intercooler, which boosts power output to a range of 235 to 275 horsepower, which is impressive by 1987 standards. It could run from 0 to 60 in 4.9 seconds, making its acceleration quicker than contemporary Corvettes and Ferraris. The Grand National was a sensation in its day and has since become legendary. Prices are on the upswing, with some cars hitting auctions for close to $100,000, but others in excellent condition are still more reasonable. So for about $50,000, you could get a sensible new Volvo wagon or own a piece of muscle car history. Next on the list is the Buick GSX. Back in the late 60s, every car maker needed to have a high-performance car in its lineup to compete with the onslaught of muscle car competition at the time. Even conservative Buick had to compete, and one of those cars was the GSX. Buick had its Skylark model on offer in the mid-60s, and base models on the lot looked nothing like a car ready to tear down any drag strip. But when one received the Grand Sport treatment, all bets were off that it was meant to do anything but go head-to-head with Pontiac's GTO. The Grand Sport option package culminated in 1970 to 1972 GSX, a standalone model meant for performance. Buyers of this car received bold colors with GSX graphics, front and rear spoiler, bucket seats, hood tachometer, and high-performance engine and suspension. Powering the car was Buick's 455 V8 with up to 360 horsepower and a whopping 510 foot-per-pound of torque. The engine was fed air through functional dual hood scoops, sending cold outside air directly into the intake. Posse traction on the rear end was standard, along with sway bars and heavy-duty shocks. In short, the car looked aggressive and had the power to match. While the GSX competed directly with the likes of GTO, Cuda, Trans Am, and others, it has not seen the exponential increase in value of those models. Today, it is not cheap, but given the choice of a new BMW M2 for around $60,000 and a perfectly restored GSX, it makes for a difficult decision. Next on the list is the Studebaker GT Hawk R2. Studebaker was once a major player in the American auto market, with many popular models competitive with anything else built at the time. Before the muscle car as we know it today became a big seller, Studebaker created a car with all the common attributes of a muscle car in the 50s, the Hawk. Available in 6 variants, the evolution of the model ended with the Gran Turismo Hawk. Even though most would call it a GT car rather than a muscle car, it is close enough. The GT Hawk underwent a significant styling change for its 1962 debut. Though Studebaker V8 power was still on tap, the styling, however, remained beautiful and featured sculpted and flowing lines from nose to tail. Most important was the optional R2 performance package. With this option, buyers received 289 V8 with forced induction courtesy of Paxton supercharger. This increased the power of the 289 from 240 in naturally aspirated models to 289 in horsepower for every cubic inch. Sadly, the GT Hawk did not last past 1964, and Studebaker was gone altogether a couple of years later. This makes GT Hawks extremely rare. Only 1,484 were sold in 1964. You can find sold listings of many of the different Hawks on Bring a Trailer for between $10,000 to $20,000 in excellent condition. Even for the ultra rare R2, one exceptionally nice example sold in 2023 for $56,500. That is not cheap, but it is the exception and far short of the $80,000 you could pay for a GTO of the era. Next on the list is the AMC Hornet SC360. In 1970, if the AMC Gremlin was too small and you wanted to stick with the brand, the Hornet was the next step up, though it was still a compact car and rode on the same platform. The Hornet was always meant to be the economical compact for the masses. However, AMC proved it could be made with a bit more of a sting in the 1971 Hornet SC360. While the base engine for the Hornet was an inline-six, a 5.0-liter V8 was optional. However, neither of these engines was powerful enough to make this compact much of a muscle car. For that, AMC installed the engine that powered its Javelin and AMX muscle cars and created an interesting compact car with enormous potential. The AMC 360 shared nearly the same dimensions as its 304, making it an easy fit. The engine in the SC360 produced 245 horsepower with a healthy 365 pound-foot of torque that paired with the small car to make it a little rocket. But even better performance, AMC offered its Go package, which installed a 2-barrel carburetor fed by a working Ram air hood scoop to up output to 285 horsepower. In this car of 3,200 pounds, that much power made it properly quick. The SC360 received a mild styling modifications that could make it hard to spot among other Hornets. With only 1 year of production, only 784 were made, of which 304 received the Go package. Despite this extreme rarity, prices are not completely unreasonable. Recent auctions have them selling, when they come up for between $30,000 and $50,000, a relative bargain for being an original. The next car on the list is the Oldsmobile Hurst Olds. The Oldsmobile brand for a long time has had the image of building cars for old people. The image was so ingrained that the company launched its "This is not your father's Oldsmobile" ad campaign in the late 80s, trying to broaden its appeal. Despite the fact that it was probably deserving of its reputation, Oldsmobile was quite capable of building fun and fast automobiles. A perfect example of this is the Olds Hurst, based on its popular Cutlass Coupe. Although the Cutlass was in production from 1961 to 1999, Oldsmobile teamed up with legendary racing shifter manufacturer Hurst for a special edition Cutlass produced intermittently from 1968 to 1988. Oldsmobile produced the initial cars with one of two 455 V8 engines, both with 390 horsepower and 500 pound-foot of torque, and an upgraded suspension from its 442 Cutlass model. The hood also had dual scoops to feed fresh air directly into the intake. Hurst provided special racing-style shifters and applied extra graphics, badges, and spoilers to complete the package. Sales took off immediately. The Hurst Olds remained until 1969, and then it would be produced every couple of years, updating specs along with the Cutlass model changes. The final iteration came with the 1983-84 models, which had a 307 V8 making 180 horsepower, 40 more than a standard Cutlass. It also received the wildest Hurst shifter, the lightning rods, with 3 stalks that could be used to power shift down the strip. Though some of the early models can reach the $100,000 mark, later models can be had for under $30,000 and look way cooler than a new Mazda CX-5. The next car on the list is the Mercury Cougar. While Ford Mustang is the perennial center of attention among American sports car enthusiasts, its Mercury Cougar cousin should always get another look. Specifically speaking of the first generation, which is built on the same platform, the Mercury Cougar from 1967 to 73 is an upscale and more comfortable version of the pony car, available with just as much punch. However, it is not just the same car with different adornments. The Mercury is slightly larger, and its overall dimensions make it a completely different car. Marketed as a luxury sports coupe, the Cougar offers buyers the brute force of Ford's powerful V8 engines with a more refined ride and nicer interior. Furthermore, the Cougar styling is unique and somewhat more elegant, and the first generation's defining feature is the disappearing headlights, a fan favorite. The initial Cougar was a successful model, possibly aided by the choice of engines, including the 4 engines ranging from 289 to 429 cubic inches. The second generation saw that cat get a little larger, further expanding the idea of sports luxury, again offered with a range of powerful engines, though power declined as 1973 approached and EPA regulations sent horsepower ratings into free fall. In 1974, the Cougar became a twin of the much larger Thunderbird. When buying a classic Cougar, it is possible to shell out a ton of cash on one of the special edition cars, such as the Eliminator 428 Super Cobra Jet. But as long as you have more modest tastes, you can pick up an extremely nice example for less than the price of a new Nissan Sentra, which is $21,745 and a lot less fun. The next car is the Dodge Demon 340. One of Dodge's latest products, making headlines for the incredible amount of horsepower it comes with from the factory, is the Dodge Challenger SRT Demon. However, you may not know this is not the first one to come from Dodge. Long before the supercharged tire shredder was created from the Challenger, the Dart was used as a basis for another version, the Demon 340. Produced from 1960 to 1976, the Dart was an incredibly successful model for Dodge. While most Darts sold were ordinary cars, some of them were offered with healthy V8 options. Although Hemi engines had previously been offered in the Dart GTS, they were dropped by 1970. The next year, Dodge released a special version of the Dart called the Demon 340. This could be ordered with a choice of engines, including the Slant 6 and one of 2 V8s. With the biggest engine option, the 340 V8, the Demon had 275 horsepower on tap, and it came with a colorful and whimsical paint scheme, complete with a pitchfork-wielding cartoon demon. While the Demon 340 is not the absolute powerhouse of the modern version, it did come with more than enough power to have some fun in the small car. Furthermore, the graphics and colors made it unique and memorable, which could cause it to be a hit with a modern classic car meet. With only 2 model years, the 1971 and 72, they can be hard to find. When found, they can be had for a range of about $25,000 to $50,000, which is far less than a new one. The next car on the list is the Mercury Comet. When discussing classic American muscle cars, the Mercury Comet probably does not come up all too often. This is unfortunate because it is an overlooked contender. With its roots in failed Edsel brand, the Mercury Comet started as the first foray into the compact car segment for Mercury and ended up an immediate with big power potential. The first generation is a plucky little car with lots of rounded corners and accents that stem from the burgeoning space-age design at the time. It originally came with a 6-cylinder engine, but Mercury eventually gave it a V8, then moved it to a bigger platform that would later allow for a big block power. Beginning in 1966, Comets shared a platform with the Ford Fairlane, moving it into the intermediate segment. This allowed for several body styles and, more importantly, big engines. The top Comet option package was the Cyclone GT, featuring a big 390 V8 that produced 335 horsepower. Buying a Comet today brings a lot of choices and decisions. The early small cars look fantastic but could hardly be called muscle cars due to the weak engines. However, one could also engine swap for a fun little cruiser. Later models are true American muscle with added amenities from being upscale versions of Ford, making them a very desirable options. That said, a few of them get into range nearing $100,000, but others offer classic car ownership for as little as $6,000. This makes it a good car for novice buyers and collectors alike. The next car on the list is the Ford Torino. Ford replaced its long-running Fairlane model in 1969, introducing the all-nude intermediate Torino. With body styles options available for coupe, fastback, sedan, and wagon buyers, the Torino was meant for a broad base of buyers. And while one could be ordered as an ordinary family car, big engine options available could make them into something with more potential. The Torino went through several styling changes from 1968 until 1976 when the model was retired. A choice of any of them can make for an excellent muscle car, although those made after 1973 will have a markedly less power in stock form. More importantly, the best body style is the fastback if you want classic muscle car form and function. The engines range from the 302 V8 available with the debut year model, and the options for larger plants include 351, 390, and for peak horsepower, the 428 Cobra Jet. The truth of the Torino is that all of them are classic American muscle cars that are easy on the eyes. Many of those with high performance engine options include functional hood scoops that increase power while adding to its sporting pedigree. Furthermore, these cars have been cemented into pop culture thanks to the popular TV show Starsky and Hutch, with its familiar red with white accent paint scheme, as well as the Clint Eastwood movie Gran Torino. Best of all, if you steer clear of the Cobra Jet models, you can find these on Bring a Trailer easily for under $20,000, although big spenders have Torino options too. One good condition Torino sold for $10,500, while another mint Cobra Jet went for $85,970. Alright, the last car on today's list is the AMC AMX. As one of the last independent automakers, AMC was always creating unique products, usually making more from fewer resources than the competition. Though it had some limitations, it did not let that stop it from developing enough horsepower to keep up, especially during the muscle car heyday. Perhaps the best example of its horsepower efforts is the AMC AMX. The AMX pony car differentiated itself from all of the competition by only allowing for 2 occupants. This gave it a short wheelbase and sporting credentials, but may have turned away a few buyers in the showroom. Nonetheless, it was a striking car that came with 4 V8 engine choices, the 290, 243, 360, and 390. Peak horsepower came from the 390, which offered up to 315. Even with good performance, great handling for the era, and attractive styling, AMC was unable to sell even 20,000 units, exponentially fewer than any of the competition. This model only lasted for 3 years, and the AMX name became an option package for the Javelin beginning in 1970. Thus, fewer AMX cars are available today. However, they are not appreciated as much as some contemporary muscle cars. Few sales of them on Bring a Trailer bring the mark of $40,000, while many can be had for more than a new Corolla. Alright, there you have it, 12 classic American muscle cars worth every penny. That was a lot harder to read than I thought it was going to be. If you thought I did a good job, give me a big thumbs up, hit a like on this video, and get in front of a few more eyes. I know there's a lot of muscle car fans. If you have a favorite, be sure to get in the comment section and let me know. I'd be interested to hear if any of you guys had one of these muscle cars back in the day, or maybe you have one in the garage today, who knows. And as always, if you enjoy this type of video, please think about subscribing to the channel, trying to build my subscriber count and get the channel monetized so every new subscriber is appreciated. You can go ahead and like this video and then hit that subscription button, and we'll talk to you on the next one. Thanks for watching.